The quantum scanner's display flickered with impossible data as Dr. Nyla Chun traced her gloved fingers across the tomb's entrance. Beneath 3 kilometers of Martian regolith, the structure defied every established model of planetary formation. Carbon dating placed it at 2.3 billion years old, predating Earth's first complex life by 500 million years. "Gravitational fluctuations are increasing," Brian Kowalski said, his voice crackling through the CUM system. The engineer stood 20 meters back, monitoring readouts from the portable gravitometer. 0.7% deviation from baseline. Whatever's behind that seal is warping local spacetime. Nyla checked her helmet's heads-up display. Radiation levels remain nominal. Atmospheric composition showed the expected Martian trace gases leaking through microscopic fissures in the ancient stone. But the gravitational anomaly was undeniable, a signature that shouldn't exist in a dead structure. "The seal's intact," she reported, examining the crystalline matrix that covered the entrance. "Molecular analysis shows a silicon carbide composite with embedded graphene structures. We couldn't manufacture this with our current technology." "Then how do we open it?" Nyla activated her wrist-mounted laser spectrometer, bathing the surface in calibrated wavelengths. The crystal responded to ultraviolet frequencies, emitting a phosphorescent glow that traced geometric patterns across its surface. "Mathematical sequences, prime numbers arranged in a 3-dimensional helix." "It's a lock," she breathed. "A mathematical lock?" For 3 hours she worked the problem. Brian fed her computational power from the lander's quantum processors while she manipulated photonic frequencies against the crystal's surface. The pattern was elegant, a proof of the Goldbach conjecture rendered in base 16 mathematics, requiring solutions to polynomial equations that human mathematicians had only solved within the last century. Finally, the crystal sang. A pure tone resonated through her suit's external sensors, vibrating at exactly 528 Hz. The seal began to deliquesce, its molecular bonds breaking in cascading waves that transformed solid into vapor without passing through liquid phase. Within minutes, the entrance stood open. "Nyla," Brian's voice held an edge she'd never heard before. "The gravitometer is showing 0.3 microsieverts of temporal distortion." She froze. Temporal distortion required either a rotating black hole or exotic matter, neither of which should exist in a Martian tomb. "Confirm that reading." "Confirmed. The effect is localized to a 5-meter radius beyond the entrance. Time is running approximately 1 part in 10 million slower inside than out here." Nyla's scientific training warred with her survival instinct. A temporal field meant technology far beyond human capability. It also meant whatever waited inside had been preserved in near-perfect stasis for over 2 billion years. She stepped through. The tomb's interior defied its external dimensions. Her radar showed a chamber extending at least 200 meters in every direction. Yet the external structure measured barely 50 meters across. Non-Euclidean geometry, made possible by the warped spacetime Brian had detected. Bioluminescent panels activated as she entered. Their light spectrum shifted toward ultraviolet. The walls were covered in inscriptions, not carved, but somehow embedded into the stone at the molecular level. Each symbol pulsed with faint electromagnetic radiation, creating a network of data encoded in the architecture itself. At the chamber's center stood a single sarcophagus. It was carved from a material her scanner couldn't identify, crystalline, like diamond, but with a refractive index that suggested impossible atomic structures. As she approached, the inscriptions on the walls brightened, their electromagnetic pulses synchronizing into a coherent pattern. Then she heard it. "NYLA. Not through her CUM system. Not through her helmet's external audio sensors." The sound resonated directly in her auditory cortex, bypassing physical sound waves entirely. "Brian, are you receiving?" "Nyla, get out of there." His transmission was breaking up, fragmented by interference. "The temporal distortion is increasing. You're experiencing time dilation of..." The signal died. She touched the sarcophagus, and the universe opened. Information flooded her consciousness, not as language or images, but as pure data encoded directly into her neural pathways. She saw the Builders, a civilization that had evolved on Mars 3 billion years ago, when the planet still held oceans and a magnetic field. They had mastered quantum mechanics at scales that allowed manipulation of fundamental forces. They had discovered that consciousness itself was a quantum phenomenon, capable of existing independent of biological substrate, and they had known they were dying, the loss of Mars's magnetic field. The stripping of its atmosphere by solar wind, they had calculated it all. Unable to prevent their extinction, they had instead chosen preservation. Not of their bodies, but of their knowledge, their consciousness, encoded in quantum states within crystalline matrices designed to last geological epochs. The sarcophagus wasn't a tomb. It was a library, a consciousness stored in quantum superposition, waiting for a mind capable of receiving it. Nyla, the voice came again, and this time she understood. The Builders had encoded her name into their beacon, not her specific name. But the concept of first contact? She was the opener. The bridge between their lost civilization and whatever species would eventually find them. She pulled her hand away, gasping. The data transfer had lasted microseconds, but had felt like hours. Her suit's chronometer showed only 15 seconds had passed since Brian's last transmission. "I'm okay," she said, her voice shaking. "Brian, I'm coming out." She emerged from the tomb to find Brian's worried face behind his helmet's faceplate. "You were in there for 37 minutes, he said. "Your vitals spiked? What happened?" 37 minutes? She checked her own chronometer. It showed 15 seconds, the temporal distortion. Time had moved differently for her inside the tomb. "We need to document everything," she said. "And we need to bring a full quantum computing array. This isn't just a tomb, Brian, it's a message." They stored their entire civilization in quantum states, waiting for someone to find them. "Who's they?" Nyla looked back at the open entrance, where the bioluminescent panels still pulsed with their encoded data. "The Martians," she said. "The first Martians. And they have so much to teach us." The stone had whispered her name, and in doing so, had bridged a gap of 2 billion years. Humanity's greatest discovery wasn't that life had existed on Mars. It was that consciousness could transcend extinction itself. The real work was just beginning.